From the Foundation Studio North today, we're up here in the Mississippi Delta at this very special slice of heaven I call Delta Bluffs. Welcome to SuperTalk Outdoors, where we celebrate every Monday at lunchtime the world-class outdoors of this incredible state of Mississippi. And, the super interesting people who are so passionate about it. I mean, there's so many. I don't know if we're ever going to get to all of them. It's just incredible. Thank you for joining us on the powerful SuperTalk Network. You know, SuperTalk Outdoors is brought to you by the Foundation. They're working to protect our outdoor heritage every single day. They're officially called the Foundation for Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. The Foundation is the only foundation that is focused on directly supporting the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. You know, what they do is they provide financial support, either through wildlife and education programs. The other thing they do that's really important is they focus on improving what I would say is actually taking a step forward, raising the bar on Mississippi's conservation efforts, so that we can make Mississippi a model, continue to make Mississippi a model in the United States. So they're focused on the important issues that matter to outdoorsmen and women in this state. In short, we're really lucky to have this organization, an organization like the Foundation, the dedicated volunteers they bring together, and of course, all those people and organizations that are helping to fund that organization. I couldn't say enough good things about it. If you want to learn more about them, you can go to the SuperTalk Outdoors page at supertalk.fm website, and click on the Foundation link, or you can just do a search. The Foundation for Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. By the way, if you haven't downloaded the SuperTalk app, you ought to do that. You'll be glad that you did. You'll get news, you'll get programming, you'll get sports alerts, you'll have access to SuperTalk TV, and the list of benefits goes on and on. So now let's move over to our producer for the show, the producer of SuperTalk Outdoors, Kyle Curley, and just say, how you doing, Kyle?
I am doing wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Anything exciting going on in your world these days?
You know, not a whole lot. Just trying to get ready for another NFL Saints home game Sunday. It's a Halloween weekend. Looks like I'm getting wrapped into doing a Pelicans game on Saturday night. So, big week ahead.
Well, Kyle works for the Saints organization. So if you're at a Pelicans game, like he just mentioned, he fills in and plays music during Pelican games. And for all the Saints home game, Kyle's the guy who plays that amazing music that you listen to. He is the best at that you'll ever find. Incredible. It's a lot of fun, isn't it, buddy?
It really is. It's a lot. It's different than what I'm normally used to. So I kind of enjoy the change of pace. And speaking of change of pace, it looks like you're back in the Delta, huh?
I am, man. It's a lot of fun here. We've been working hard, getting ready for deer season. This is the time of year when we're fixing, shooting houses and finishing up food plots and doing stuff like that. In fact, you can show that video. We were actually up in a place we call Mount Everest, which is we have 500 acres in the main camp. We have 3 different farms, but this main farm is 500 acres in the Delta, 500 acres up in the bluffs. And this is a food plot we call Mount Everest. And if you look out over the Delta, 8 miles away, you can see the city of Greenwood. It's just incredible. And we were up there yesterday as the sun was setting. It really doesn't get any better than that. You enjoying the shows, my friend?
I really am. It's, again, I hate to use the cliche, but it's a good change of pace. I really enjoy the change of subjects. I really like the outdoors. I don't get outdoors as much as I would probably like, or physically really get used to, but, live vicariously through others.
Yeah, Cal does a lot of fishing with his son when he gets the opportunity to do so. But we got a lot of, the first show, this is officially the 4th edition of SuperTalk Outdoors. But the first edition, we had Jimmy Primos and Brad Ferris from the Primos team, and I played a section of my show Coast View, which airs on the coast, had an hour-long session with Will Primos. We'll have him on this show actually in a few weeks. But the feedback we got from that was just incredible. And then last week, the second week, we had Toxie Hayes and Cuz Strickland from Mossy Oaks. What a great show that was. And then last week, I really enjoyed having Steve Azar, the music and cultural ambassador for the state of Mississippi, a guy who's an artist who's written so many incredible songs. He wrote the theme song for SuperTalk Outdoors, One Mississippi. That song was actually commissioned by Governor Phil Bryant, And of course, he was on that show with us as well last week. And the passion they have for this state and the way this song sort of represents the best of Mississippi, as we all agree, we hope it will become sort of the state song at somewhere along the way. And then we close that show out with William McKinley, the Deer Program Coordinator. I really enjoyed that conversation with William because he is a great example of all the great people who work in the department who are so dedicated to really dedicated their lives to wildlife conservation in this state. So anyway, if you missed any of those shows, you can go to supertalk.fm. You can go to your Facebook page. You can go to the YouTube channel. You can go to your favorite podcast and just search SuperTalk Outdoors, and you'll get a chance to see that. Anyway, thanks for all you do, buddy.
You bet.
You bet. Hey, listen, if you, you know what I want to do? I want to do a quick shout out to someone. Mindy Briscoe. He's actually married to my wife's cousin, Tony. And he has a hobby. He makes knives for family members. And he came over the other day and brought me a knife. I'm showing it for the Facebook and YouTube audience. It's just literally gorgeous. And it's a work of art. And I'm planning to use it too. I'm just not going to look at it. I'm going to use this knife and I'm going to cherish it. So thank you, Mindy, for sending it to me. We have such a great show today. If you haven't heard of the Swamp Witches, you're going to know more about them after this show today. They're a group of women duck hunters. Really, they're just a group of hunters in general. They break from the mold that hunting's just about, the love of the outdoors for men. They love dogs. Some of them love horses. They generally just love the outdoors. And they love cooking and what they kill. They love the quality time they spend together, and there's going to probably be just a lot of fun stories to tell. But anyway, I want to welcome two of the Swamp Witches to Super Talk Outdoors today, Lila Sessums and Leigh Bailey. Welcome to Super Talk Outdoors.
Thank you. We are so happy to be here.
It is. It's great being here. It's a beautiful day here in Mississippi.
So where are you sitting, Lila, right now?
We are at Leigh's and her husband Jamie's hydroponic greenhouse, and I purchased this prop behind us at a Ducks Unlimited banquet one night that's got a bunch of wood ducks and in Florida, Mississippi.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And by the way, we're gonna hear more about Leigh and her business and how they got into that business in a second. You also have your dog sitting with you, Skeeter. Tell me about Skeeter.
Yes, Skeeter is 15 years old. This is probably going to be her last duck hunting year, but she has been hunting with the Swamp Witches for the past 13 years. She's an excellent.
Wow. So in dog years, how old is Skeeter?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh,
Oh.
about 100 and something. She's
Oh,
a big
wow.
citizen for sure.
And still loves to go out and chase the ducks, I'm sure. Yeah, what a great dog. So Lila, tell me, define for people who have never heard about Swamp Witches before. Define what is a Swamp Witch and how did they get their name?
Well, I think it all started with horses. All of us have a general interest in horses, and then it led from there that we had hunting interest as well. And I bought a hunting deal to go with Jim and Allison Cruz in Clarksdale and hunted with my dog and her dog there. And then a couple of more of us girls got together, and then we all got together and went up hunting. And for me, if you get 5 girls to tell a story, you're going to hear 5 different stories. So this is my version. We were all cleaning out the cabin, had our brooms, and we're sweeping it up because the dogs come in the cabin, and we go in there with our waders and we created a mess. So we all had brooms and we had all the doors open. It was a beautiful day, and we're sweeping out the cabin, and somebody said, "Y'all look like a bunch of swamp witches."
And it stuck.
It stuck.
It's stuck.
So Lila, you were involved with Allison at the very beginning, right?
Yes.
Tell me about Allison.
Oh, there's no explaining Allison. She is a phenomenon in herself. She is all things wonderful. She really is the meat of our group. She puts everything together, and she's just a super woman.
You know, SuperTalk Outdoors is brought to you by the Foundation. They're working to protect our outdoor heritage every single day. They're officially called the Foundation for Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. The Foundation is the only foundation that is focused on directly supporting the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. So they're focused on the important issues that matter to outdoorsmen and women in this state. In short, we're really lucky to have this organization. An organization like the Foundation, the dedicated volunteers they bring together, and of course, all those people and organizations that are helping to fund that organization. I couldn't say enough good things about it. If you want to learn more about them, you can go to the SuperTalk Outdoors page at supertalk.fm website, or and click on the Foundation link, or you can just do a search, the Foundation for Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. When we come back, we're coming to the end of this segment, but when we come back, we're gonna tell some amazing stories about the memories that the swamp
Station on Mississippi's Outdoors. It's Super Talk Outdoors with Ricky Matthews on Super Talk Mississippi.
Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors here on the Super Talk Network. We're having a conversation with two swamp witches today. And when we went to break, we were talking about, you know, what is a swamp witch and how did they get the name and all of that. You know, one of the things that I saw, I actually did some research about this, and what I found actually on the internet is a story that was written, actually it was in 2020, called The Allure of the Swamp Witch. And it went on to say different things, but essentially it was about getting away from modern society and all of its expectations. And in a way, really, hunting is like that. Hunting's a great way to escape, isn't it?
It
Yes.
certainly is.
So all of you see the outdoors in Mississippi as the ultimate way to get away, don't you?
Absolutely.
100%.
So let's go back. So Lee, talk to me a little bit about what the outdoors in Mississippi means to you.
Well, it's just, you know, the rat race and the high stress of everyday working and families and just obligations of life, and just be able to go out into nature, into the quiet. Sometimes it's not quiet, I guess, if you're duck hunting, but it just takes all that away. You can just feel those layers of stress peeling off, and whether you're on the back of a horse or you're in a swamp or a tree stand, it's just peace, and it's my spiritual time just to get outside and the cathedral of the woods.
The Cathedral of the Woods. I love it. I love the way you said that. You know, I've often said that you can literally, when I get into the woods, I can literally feel my blood pressure drop. My mind feels more creative. And there's just something just rejuvenating about it. And when you don't get a chance to do it, all the stresses of life kind of start to add up in your body. That's for sure. You went to Mississippi State University and you were born and raised in Jackson. You sort of been around the outdoors, I guess, most of your life. But dogs and horses and all these things were really important to you, weren't they?
They were. My dad was a little bit of a wing shooter growing up, but he didn't ever take me to do that. Unfortunately, I guess I never expressed an interest. But anyway, it was later in life when I was in college and I was dating a guy that was a big outdoorsman, and he took me deer hunting for the first time, and I was just hooked. It was fantastic. And so I got a taste of it then, but it wasn't until really when I got involved with my girlfriends through horses and then into hunting that it became almost an obsession. And there are different types of hunting have come out of the original Swamp Witch duck hunting bond, and there's a couple that, especially Allison, is a major turkey hunter, and so that she introduced me to that. And you talk about an obsession. That's one that people ask me all the time, you know, I really want to take up turkey hunting. And I say, well, as long as you got plenty of time on your hands, you're going to need a free schedule to do this.
Well, no, so you're right, Lee. It is a pure obsession. When you hear Will Primos talk about turkey hunting, or Toxie Hayes talk about turkey hunting, or anyone else who's been in the woods and hear that gobble and what it does to them. And I mean, it's the ultimate chase. and it's the ultimate experience. And once you get it, it is a true addiction, isn't it?
It really is. It's the best way I can describe it. The first season I ever hunted, I got so crazy over it that I ended up with poison ivy all over myself, mosquito bites from head to toe, ticks, you name it, and not a turkey to show for it.
Hey, we've all been there. We've all been there. Hey, listen, you became a real estate broker, and you got married along the way, obviously, and you and your husband decided to be very entrepreneurial and take some big risks. And today, you have a rather large greenhouse producing lettuce. Tell me about this operation you guys have in Florida.
Well, my husband and he was from Columbus, Georgia, big outdoorsman, and we met and dated long distance for a while. And he was a commercial real estate broker in Georgia. And when we married and he moved over here, he said, I just can't imagine starting a new career in real estate in a new city, a new state. I'm going to have to think something else to do. And I said, well, I've been doing it a long time too. I'm ready for something different. And so we started doing research, came across this idea of indoor farming, which allows you to do it year round and allows you to be on restaurant menus all the time. And so we did about 2 years worth of research before we took the plunge. And we now operate Salad Days is the name of the farm in Flora, Mississippi. And we have 18,000 square feet of under roof and 27,000 heads of lettuce in there right now that are headed for a restaurant plate or a grocery store shelf.
One of the notes that you sent to me, you said that you and your husband are living proof that you can teach old dog new tricks. But it's been you've used all of your prior experience and all the business that you've been involved in before to say, bring dogged determination to this entrepreneurial effort, and it's really paid off, hasn't it?
It has. And my husband had years, a lifetime basically of planting food plots and growing pine trees, and had a love of horticulture. I've always had a backyard garden and indoor plants, and really enjoyed that. But neither one had any commercial growing farming experience. So there has been a pretty steep learning curve on this, but we've enjoyed it. We've endured against all odds. There have been times when we thought, oh my gosh, how can we do this another day? Because it is we've had to give up a lot of our outdoors time. I'll say that. That's one of the sacrifices. But hopefully we'll be able to get back to the more time in the woods soon.
Yeah, I had this is Leigh Bailey we're talking to. She's one of the swamp witches. But I had a brothers that are involved in the seafood business in coastal Mississippi on the show this past week. One was 18 years old, one was 16 years. They actually got in the business when they're like 15 and 12. And when they go check their crab pots, they have to get up at like 2:30 in the morning, and they don't get back to like 10 o'clock at night. But so is the life of an entrepreneur. I mean, it's not an 8-to-5 job anymore, is it?
You just do what you have to do.
You do what you have to do. Let's move over to Lila Sessums, actually one of the original members of the Swamp Witches. And you grew up in Louisiana, and we'll talk a little bit in a minute about how significant the Piro is to what you guys do, not wanting motorized boats and whatever. And what I love about your story, Lila, is that you learned a love of hunting from your mother. Tell me about that.
Well, I actually learned the love of hunting with both of them, but my mother was the biggest influence. She helped me with training the dogs and how to blow a duck call, whether it was jingle bells in the duck blind or actually learning how to do a feed call. But yes, we had a wonderful family experiences in South Louisiana, and my mother always invited other families with their children, and so she brought a lot of that into the equation.
So, unfortunately, I think along the way, you got away from hunting for various reasons, and then you got reintroduced to it. And I think you live on a horse farm today, but tell me about how outdoors became such a big obsession for you as you continue to experience life.
Well, unfortunately, my parents divorced, and that's when the duck hunting ended. And then I didn't get back into horses until college. and that got me more outdoors, and got a Labrador that got me more outdoors, and bought a horse farm, and that definitely took me out of the city to the outdoors, because I was a greenhorn when it came to standing in an ant pile while hammering on a fence line. And but in fact, when I met my husband, he was in a truck and I was outside. So I always tell him I was more outdoors than you were when we met. So I want you to remember that when I'm inside cooking and cleaning and doing the laundry.
But you know what? I mean, when we talk about horses, you have several national championships in show jumping. You've got 2/4 horse world championships. You're focused on horse racing today. I mean, you don't play around, do you?
No, I've just been super blessed with the horse business. I trained with a man that rode in the Olympics, and Dennis Murphy out of Alabama, and he's just, we've had a wonderful relationship for almost 30 years now. And getting into the racehorse business is a lot tougher than the show jumping. I thought it was going to be somewhat kind of similar, and I was going to have maybe the same kind of success, but that is not happening yet.
Yeah, it's serious business. I have a couple of friends that are in the horse racing business, actually 3, and it's very expensive to start out with, and it's extremely competitive. Anyway, we're having a conversation. Say it again.
It's all on my own time, so I can kind of help with those expenses.
Yes. Well, this is Lila Sessums and Leigh Bailey. They're members of the Swamp Witches. We're gonna come back after the break and talk more about hunting and what does a routine look like for them. I hear they stay up late at night drinking wine and still get up early in the morning. But we'll hear about all of those things in just a second. We'll see you after this break.
Mississippi to this land called home. I'll breathe Mississippi till I'm dead. It's kudzu walls and fall football, a Gulf Coast sunset and a Delta dawn. It's simple night.
Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors. I have Lila Sessums and Leigh Bailey. They're members of the sort of famous Swamp Witch group. They're a group of duck hunters, but really they just love the outdoors and they experience it in so many different ways. You know, one of the things I love about this show, and I often say this about my show Coast View as well, that some of the funnest conversations actually happen when we're not on the air. And, you know, one of the things I pointed out was that, okay, I had the Primos guys in the first show, Mossy Oaks guys in the second show, Steve Azar and Phil Bryan in the third show, and then the fourth show, the Swamp Witches. I mean, that's where you sort of rate in a list of probably 100 opportunities for us to go focus on. But our friend Chris Gerst made just a compelling case for what you guys are up to, and I have not been disappointed, I might add. Just doing the research on you, loving your love of it, and you often actually out hunt the men, which I think is a cool thing as well. So let's come back to the hunting. The specific hunting, and we're going to talk about duck hunting very specifically. But I mentioned just a second ago, Lila, that you know you're from South Louisiana. I have a lot of friends from down there. My wife's grandfather was Cajun French. He talked just like this, and all the people talk like that too. And they get the pirogue and they go duck hunting. Yeah, well, you guys use pirogues. You know, you don't like motorized boats. Has anyone ever tipped over?
Well, we mostly use canoes. Allison is the only one that uses a pirogue now.
Yeah. Well, still, anyone tipped over?
No.
Canoes,
I gotta find some wood tonight.
we've managed to stay upright in the canoes. There have been probably some close calls, but and it's mostly when you're trying to get dogs in and out of the canoes that it would probably be more of a tipping potential.
Well, people don't realize that. I mean, and we know that some of the more tragic things that happen are when people go in the water, and when you're weighted down with waders and all the stuff that you have. Oftentimes, people are trying to get their dogs. It can be very cold. It can be very dangerous. But let's talk about your routine. So you guys arrive at the camp. You're going to go hunting the next day. What's going on? Because I know there's a lot of work to do, but then there's a social piece to what you do. So kind of walk me through it.
Well, I will have to give Allison Cruz a lot of credit because she has us to her camp at Ward Lake up north of Clarksdale, and so she's always very prepared in terms of having everything set up and where we're going, and the canoes are in the place they need to be for the next morning, and then she's planner extraordinaire. We show up. She usually beats us there, and we show up with all the food. We're prepared to cook. Generally, it's going to be wild game that we, duck from another hunt, or who knows, venison, something. We have a great meal that we do at the camp. We don't want to take the time to drive back to town to eat out, so we're always cooking and socializing, and there's a whole lot of stories, a whole lot of laughing, probably a whole lot of champagne and wine. And then Allison starts pretty early because she knows it's going to take a while to get us all ready to go to bed.
But sometimes we go hunting when we get there, deer hunting or pig hunting, or
yeah, of course.
We can get there early enough.
Yeah, I'll take
well, Allison seems like the ultimate host. She's thought through a lot of this stuff, so you're not having to worry about anything other than having a great time. And Lila, I hear you're a good cook.
I try.
Yeah,
I love to cook. It's
and
one of my
she
passions.
never uses a recipe, and everybody will have her whatever it is we're having, and we'll all say, we want the recipe. We don't say that anymore because we know better, but she doesn't know. If you don't make her tell you right that minute and write it down, we'll never have that again. Something close, but never that.
Lee, that's so interesting. So Lila, how many different ways can you cook a duck, for example?
5 million from Sunday. I just I'm different all the time, and then I'll get hooked on one. Like right now, I love doing the whole duck and kosher salt and getting it really hot on the grill and cooking it medium rare, and it's delicious.
Having the crispy skin,
It's
and
delicious.
oh yeah, it's great.
And then I'll go back to something else, and then it varies.
So what time do you get up the next morning?
Early.
Usually I'd say about 4:30 ish. Allison, she's the one always responsible for getting us all up. We'll hear her running around banging on pots and pans saying, "Get up, girls, get up!" And there's some get up quicker than others, but everyone knows if you're not at the truck when it's leaving, then you're too bad. There's no waiting.
She doesn't let us get by with not going. There is no time, maybe once or twice in the 22 years that we have not all gotten up. And
even the time I will recall that I ended up with the stomach virus when we got there and was sick all night the night before. I mean, violently ill. The next morning I said, y'all, I cannot go. I am so sick. And they would not let me stay. And I got up and put on waders and went out there and laid in the canoe and moaned and groaned in the freezing cold. I never picked up a gun, but I went. I was there.
I bet, I can only imagine, because from my duck and deer hunting experiences, my just hunting experiences, when a group of people, men or women, it doesn't matter, when they get together, the memories, you rag each other, you tell stories, you have fun, there's always someone in the group that's like the quickest wit of the group, that's always got something funny to say. If you do anything, even if it's normal, they have something to say about it that's funny. Who's that person in your group?
I have to say it's all of us. But Lynn Bussey's she's pretty cutting edge funny, I'd say.
Who's that?
Lynn Bussey.
Yeah.
She's funny.
Any mercy?
No.
No mercy.
No mercy. No.
That's the way it is here. So when we invite someone to come hunt with us, we say, do they have thick skin? Because the moment they walk in this door, they can't take anything personally. It's just part of the experience, isn't it?
We will have leaks in our waders, and it'll be freezing, and nobody says uncle. I mean, nobody.
No.
We have seen people go by in boats, and we're going, "Why are y'all going home?" And they're like, "We have a hole in our waders," and we're standing in water going, "Oh, we feel so sorry for you." So we will stay. I actually had a guy in Arkansas. He wanted my swamp witch hat, And he left early, and I said, well, I can't give him my swamp witch hat. He left early. He does not deserve
a swamp witch hat.
Wow. So, okay. So when you get to the mechanics of duck hunting, you know, for people who don't do a lot of duck hunting, you just don't go out there and blow in on a call. You have to watch the ducks, see what they're doing. You got to figure out what's the best situation. You don't want to overcall. But I guess you got all that in the rhythm now, don't you?
Oh, yeah. I have a whistle, and that means be quiet.
And what about not look? Don't look.
Right. Don't look. We're pretty good about covering our faces with scarves and having a good brim on a hat. And, you know, pretty much everybody's been trained enough to keep your head down and just cut your eyes up. But it did take a while, you know, those white faces looking up at the sky, and a lot of flaring ducks over the years taught us that.
Speaking of hats, we brought some hats. We're all big into hats and scarves, and
yeah. We'd give y'all a hat.
Oh,
Swamp witch hat look.
That you have.
Well, these are not what you would expect. They're not like baseball hats for the radio audience. These are bulky, almost witch-like hats. Maybe, you know, it's got this kind of, you know, it's not the point, and they're not black, but they're really cool. What a neat.
This one is.
Oh, there's your witch hat. Now, Lee's got a witch hat on for sure. You know, I mean, what would this conversation with the witch on that? And see, there's the Davy Crockett hat. So what would a conversation with the swamp witches be like without someone donning a witch hat for sure? You know, I bet there's so many incredible memories. I think about some of the things that happen here. Like for people who are not familiar with the Delta gumbo, the mud in the Delta is pretty special, isn't it?
It is, and we've dealt with that a few times. I can remember one time going out across that field to we were finished hunting. We were coming back out across the field, driving in Lila's dually, and
white dually.
Well, it was, yeah,
it was,
and it had rained while we were out there, and we got going across that field, and we could feel that truck just sinking. And Lila said, "Just don't let up, don't let up." And she was just had it floored, and we were going like an inch at a time, you know. But we got out, and the truck was unrecognizable, but we got out.
My husband was so proud of me when I got home. You couldn't see white paint on that truck in any place. He was like, "Yes, looked like y'all had so much fun."
Oh yeah, and you know what? When you don't break anything, like an axle or whatever, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. Hey, when we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with two of the swamp witches, Lila Sessums and Leigh Bailey. What a fun conversation this is. We'll see you for the final segment after this break.
It's Super Talk Outdoors with Ricky Matthews on Super Talk Mississippi.
Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors, brought to you by the Foundation. They're doing amazing work to raise the bar in conservation in this state. And very proud to have them as a key sponsor of Super Talk Outdoors. And I'm coming to you from the Mississippi Delta, from my special place up here we call Delta Bluffs. Delta, I mean, when you have the Delta and then you have the coast, I mean, it's the best of both worlds. It gives you a real good sense of the incredible outdoors in Mississippi. And we're having a conversation with Lila Sessums and Leigh Bailey. They're members of the Swamp Witches. Listen, I've heard the podcast and I've read some things. People who see you out there, they wonder what men puts the decoys out for you. How do you get to where you're going? You know, who calls them in? You do all this stuff. You even have to have a license. I know somebody wondered about that. Tell me about the snow hunt.
Well, unfortunately, we only go up for one day, so we do a lot of packing for that one day hunt. So this one time, y'all brought horses. You brought horses.
We had been fox hunting the day before up in the Delta, and we just came over with the horses, and so we had them there.
So there had also been a group there that weekend that left a lot of ducks on the board. And for some glorious reason, it started snowing. And it snowed and snowed. And some were out deer hunting. I was cooking some venison shanks. And what were you deer hunting?
We were pig or deer hunting. Yeah.
And kept snowing. It kept snowing and snowing, and the next morning it is just glorious. And we go out, and this, we've got all our stuff, and wish we had some white sheets or something for better camouflage. But anyway, we had a great shoot. Then we rode horses.
Built a snow duck.
Well, we decided we were snowed in. We were so excited. We're snowed in. We don't have to go home, and it might be a couple of days. And we had plenty of food and went horseback riding in the snow, and then did an afternoon duck hunt. And
it was one of those. It was a true snow day, like you felt when you were a kid in school, and it's an extra day off. And we loved being able to legitimately call our husbands and say, "Sorry, we can't come home."
We can't come home. We are snowed in. It's just terrible. I know.
But you speak
big old snow goose.
You speak of your husband. Well, go ahead. Finish your story, Lila.
We just sat out there and made a big old snow goose.
Instead of a snowman.
And just had the best time.
Well, here's the thing. You mentioned your husbands, but one of the things that makes it work for me and my friends and family members who come here to hunt with me is that my wife, Ann, is just incredible. She's always supported my love of the outdoors and the fact that I take the kids with me and the grandkids and whatever. But, you wouldn't be able to do what you do if you didn't have the support of your husbands, would you?
No, not at all.
We love to hunt with them, too. But my husband, I hear him tell people all the time that he comes home from work and opens the garage and he sees waders and a shell belt and a blind bag and, a pile of stuff that's obviously been pulled out to go somewhere. And he happily runs in and says, "Hey, honey, are we going duck hunting somewhere?" And I say, "Not we." And he said, "My wife goes off and leaves me going duck hunting all the time. I thought that was what the men did." But sometimes too. So
that's so cool. Somebody, when I first married Ann, my wife Ann, I always joked with my friends that when I could find a woman who could rig a cigar minnow on a sea witch, it's a very specific kind of lure, that I'm going to marry her. And, turns out she was an amazing fisherman, loved to be on the boat, loved to do, you name it, she loved to do it. And I married her. But, it's so much fun to have someone that you enjoy life with, going on life's journey, who shares the love of the outdoors and really the passion for sharing it with the kids and extended family members. That's what makes it. I mean, look, at the end of the day, that time with loved ones, with friends, your friends are loved ones now. There's no exchange for anything else in life other than that moment, is there?
No, not at all.
Really not. That's how I met my husband was through turkey hunting. I got set up with him as a guide in Georgia one time, and and the rest was history. So
it's so cool. Hey, have you ever had a chef join you guys?
Yes, he lives in Memphis and used to be the chef at the Memphis Country Club.
Country Club, I think.
And Chris, we just love Chris, and he'll come at least once a year and just do an elaborate spread. And then we all cook the other time. So, but yeah, he's awesome.
We always eat too much when Chris comes.
It kind of spoils you. I love the story that at Christmas time you guys get a special gift for one another. And I wish we had time to continue to tell all these stories. I'm going to have you guys back. I'd love to have you back. We'll talk about how the duck season is going so far at some point in the near future. But unfortunately, we're to the end of our time together, and it's been a thrill for me to get to know both of you better. And good luck with your continued, journey for creating memories within the context of the Swamp Witches.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. We've had a great time.
It's been a lot of fun for sure. This has been Lila Sessums and Leigh Bailey, members of the Swamp Witches, and someone, two women who just love sharing their love of the outdoors. Anyway. Have a great week, and we'll see you next Monday. Stay safe as you continue to get ready for deer season, and we'll see you soon.